Marketer of the Day, Episode 623, Toastmasters. Improve your presentation skills and become a better stage, webinar, and podcast speaker.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Plank. Welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. In about 2 hours from now, I'm going to be getting in a car and driving my car about 15 minutes from here to meet with my Toastmasters club. Now, your Toastmasters club is something that I really think that you should join if you want to be a better communicator in any possible way, whether you're looking to express yourself better and present and be more confident at your 9-to-5 job, or I'm hoping that you're some kind of an entrepreneur and you want to be better on video, you want to be better on podcasting, you want to be better on other people's podcasts, or maybe even you want to speak from stage. Either way, the only way to get better is with practice and repetition and focusing on specific things, so that way you can attack the problem in bite-sized pieces and you can just go through the presenting process without getting so dang nervous. So what's Toastmasters? Does it mean that we meet and eat dinner? Well, no. I actually hate Toastmasters groups like that. The one that I'm going to tonight, I've been in for about a year, so I'm not a super veteran Toastmasters member, but I joined a little over a year ago as of this recording, and we meet in an office building, we meet in a sanitation supply company. And before that, we met in an accounting office after hours, after everyone's, all the employees are out of the way, and we meet in the conference room. We set out bottles of water, pens, agendas, and then we all meet and go through this meeting process where we do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm not really sure why that is, but that's what we do. We do what's called a toast. So someone will have an interesting thought. There will be a quote. There will be a thing called table topics, which means that we go around the table, go around the room, and there's a specific prompt. And it could be something like, what's your favorite holiday memory? Or where would you retire to? Or where have you not gone on vacation yet but would like to? An impromptu topic that everyone around the room has 1 to 2 minutes to answer. So Toastmasters is this place where you just practice your speaking. And I'm still not the best speaker, but I do my best to limit my number of false starts, of awkward sentences, of ums and ahs. It's not the kind of thing that you'll get better at instantly, but slow and steady wins the race. After this table topics thing is done, there will be a few people presenting. People present because they're going through these things called levels. They're going through this advancement process. They're going through a workbook, so to speak. There used to be a workbook. Now it's an online system called Pathways. And people will present from things like an upcoming presentation they might give for work soon. Or in my case, sometimes I'll use Toastmasters just to present something new. I presented on geocaching. I presented about life hacks. So Toastmasters is the place where you can present something where maybe if you are going to give an upcoming webinar or an upcoming presentation, or you just want to try out material, you want to try out different jokes, you want to see about how to be a better presenter as far as keeping a story woven together, or you want to beef up a presentation and make sure that it involves a story component or that it involves other people, or you want to make sure that your speech ends on a good note, or you wanted to see what time you go in. So people are presenting different assignments, so to speak. And the assignment I presented last month was all about visual aids, and I talked about life hacks, and I had posters, and I had props, and I had safety goggles, and I flipped a coin. And you can have a lot of fun with that. These presentations are timed, just like I said, that there was a thing called table topics where you go around a table and each person has that impromptu talk every 1 to 2 minutes. And then people presenting might be giving a 3 to 5 or a 5 to 7 minute speech, or I think there is maybe a 15 to 20 minute speech. but you have a title of your speech, someone introduces you, you walk to the front of the room and you give this presentation, and you're timed on it. You're also measured on the ums and ahs and filler words and false starts, things like that. You are, did I mention that you get timed? So you get timed, and someone is responsible for holding up different color cards. Like, is it green, like you've made it to your minimum length of time? Is it yellow, where you're in the danger zone? Is it red, where you're overtime? So you can see at the end how well you did. And while you're presenting, yet another person is writing notes, telling you what they thought, telling you what stood out to them, what you should improve on, how to make it better, ideas like that. And then after you present that evaluator will come up in the front of the room, and they themselves are timed. I believe it's a 90 second to 2.5 minute, or maybe just 1 to 2 minute, but there's a time of that as well. And then at the end, you have the person evaluate the whole meeting, and you have the person called a Toastmaster who's an MC. But the point of all this is that Toastmasters is a place where you can get over that fear of public speaking, and you can become a better presenter. And it's a weird, in a good way, a weird and fun hobby. And this is a thing, Toastmasters is a thing that was really missing from my life for a while, because I was a part of a mastermind where we'd meet every couple of months, maybe 4 or 5 times a year in different cities. And we'd go and we'd meet as a group, and each person would have time to present. I think we would have 45 minutes to present and explain what our accomplishments have been the last couple of months, what we did and what we're working on, and maybe have a list of questions to ask the leader of the group, Mr. Armin Morin, or ask questions of the rest of the group. And you know what? The first time I went to this mastermind group, I was so scared. I had the butterflies in the stomach. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, those presentation fearful butterflies. But then once, and you're always afraid of it, but then once you start talking for a couple of minutes, it all goes away. And then by the end, you have that feeling that you're really glad that you did that thing. And it was an unexpected benefit of going to this mastermind group, because sometimes you would get your own problem solved, or sometimes you'd solve your own problem by seeing what things other people were presenting or what other people were asking about. You'd get new ideas, and it was one of those really great things. But what was the best part of it for me was the presenting. So I would like you to think quite a bit about how you want to improve yourself as a speaker. Again, if you want to get ahead in your 9-to-5 job, because we've had people in Toastmasters who are accountants. We had a guy who worked for the police department. So I think he did like forensics or some kind of nerd stuff. And he wanted to make a boring subject interesting. There's a guy who's really funny in the group who is a professional paid speaker, and he'll give talks all over the place. So he will test out new material, or he will give a speech that he normally gives and then see what we think about it, or he'll try new stuff. There's always there's always room for improvement. And again, sometimes the improvement is either by improving the material itself that you're presenting. Sometimes the improvement is in improving your own skills and reducing those ums, because once you start saying the ums, it's hard to stop. If you're the kind of person that says ums again and again, I want to share it with you a tip. I can't claim it for myself, but I want to give the credit to Mr. Chuck Hooper, who says, close your mouth. If you're presenting and you're talking in any context, one-on-one, in person, webinar, podcast, if you say ums and ahs so much, then when you're done speaking out your sentence, close your mouth. This way, when you speak a sentence out, you will have a pause in there. The reason why you add your own filler words, why you add your own pause, is to bridge the gap of that awkward silence. But there's nothing wrong with an awkward silence. If you present and you talk and you pause for effect, there is nothing wrong with that. And if anything, it makes what you say more powerful. And to make this personal, to tell you what I've been working on, sure, I like to remove the likes, the so's, the ums and ahs, the false starts, but I also have been making more of an effort in the past year, especially, to slow things down. To not always be talking a mile a minute and throw out 20 different tips and facts and figures and start off on one train of thought and go all the way over to some other train of thought. I've also been looking to amp up my humor, amp up my storytelling, just be a better speaker in any which way that I can. About how many years ago? About 2 years ago, plus some time, maybe 2.5 years ago, I interviewed someone named Katrina Sawa, who runs these masterminds up in Sacramento, about 90 minutes from me. The reason why I even found this person was because I was getting podcast guests. I have a friend named Adam Homey, whose podcast is, I believe, businesscreatorsradioshow.com. So there's a cell right there. If I was in Toastmasters, I get dinged. But it's okay. We're not looking for a perfect score. We're looking to improve. We're looking to catch ourselves so that way we are aware of that problem and can improve. Now, I combed the podcast list, the podcast episode list of this guy, Adam Homey, and I contacted all of his podcast guests to have on my show as interviewees of my podcast. I figured if this guy, Adam Homey, had all these wonderful guests, then they'd be a perfect fit for my show because he's a smart marketer. He's a nice guy too. And all of his guests are really smart. So I know I'm not going to get any weirdos, any jokers. And they're all people who have been proven to appear on a podcast. They love podcasting and they're media trained, so to speak, at least more than I am. So they'll be somewhat easy. And I can say I know Adam Homey. What should I do? We talk all the time about politics and all kinds of other things. So I contacted all of his guests. One of them was Katrina Sawa, who lives up in Sacramento, not too far away. And she told me that she runs these things called meetups. Now, maybe you heard of these, or sort of like mini conferences, and I've been to a couple of her live events since as well. So she, there's a so and there's an up. She runs these meetups, and her meetup used to be a Toastmasters group, but she turned it into something else. So he runs these meetups up in Sacramento, and I kept seeing posts on Facebook and on Meetup about it coming up, and I kept thinking, I'll go someday, or maybe even never, but it's always good to know that it's there. For most of 2017, I didn't go. I kept seeing these meetups again and again, and I finally went to one of these meetups in, I think, late 2017, maybe mid 2017. And then I went to a couple of these monthly meetups. I made some new contacts. I found some people to appear on a podcast. And one of these guys, Chuck Hooper, was there in the room. And it turns out that he lives in Turlock, where I live. He lives about a mile away, maybe 2 miles away from me. So I had to go, I had to contact all these podcast guests of this guy who lives in Las Vegas to get someone on my show who lives in Sacramento to drive 90 minutes each way to Sacramento just to meet someone who lived 2 miles away from me. Chuck is a huge Toastmasters fanatic. He's in multiple clubs. He told me about the Toastmasters club that's a little bit near me. They were running an open house. I showed up. At first, I didn't like it too much, but I figured I need a hobby. I need something to get me out of the house, and I need to improve my speaking skills, or at least stay current, at least not backslide, because I do like to do podcasting. I do like to do webinars. I do like to do some presentations. I just did an in-person presentation about a month ago that was a 20-minute talk about your book, your membership site, and your podcast at Katrina's event. And I used some of the attention getters at the beginning of my presentation that were first tested out right there at Toastmasters. My point of all this is, if you're looking for something to do, if you're looking to make some new connections, if you're burnt out on events, if meetups aren't your thing or you're not quite ready to try meetups, I really recommend that you find yourself a Toastmasters club near you. I've been to this one, like I said, that meets at a sanitation office, just a regular office building with a conference room. So there are some where they meet for breakfast or they meet for dinner. They meet at a Denny's. I'm not really sure about that. But there are some that are work-based. There's a huge warehouse factory facility. I'm not sure what you'd call it, maybe a facility called Foster Farms. That's about 20 minutes south of me, where they think they slaughtered 700,000 chickens a day or just some huge amount. But Foster Farms themselves has a Toastmasters club where the employees there all meet and look to become better presenters. Because if you ignore your speaking skills, if you think that you can wing it, if you think you don't need practice, then those people that do practice are really going to smoke you. And again, whether that means you're a presenter and you wonder, geez, why did that other presenter teach nothing, but he was funny and he got everyone excited and everyone bought from him. And then I wasn't funny, but I taught a lot of things and no one bought. Well, maybe that means that you need to improve your speaking skills. And maybe that means that the information that you communicate through your presenting is only one ingredient of many. Who cares if you have the best information if you don't get and you don't keep people's attention? Who cares if you have the best information if you don't leave people wanting more? Who cares if you have the best information if someone else can beat you, so to speak, with their smoke and mirrors? Wouldn't it be great if you had both? So there's some of these people out there, and I'm sure you've seen these people at events where they're really awesome. They have a huge stage presence, but do they really say much of anything? Well, what if you combined the wonderful knowledge that you have to teach people about making money as an affiliate, making money as a drone operator, or I don't know, knitting cable knit sweaters, or publishing books on Kindle? What if you combined the excellent knowledge that you had to communicate to people that helped them out, but you also added some polished presentation skills? Well, that's something that I think that will help you. So there are many different ways and places that people meet for Toastmasters. There's one where people meet at a retirement home and the average age is 78. There's one that meets in a prison, I think. So there's all shapes and sizes. But what you do is you go to toastmasters.org. You click on at the top, find a club, type in your zip code. It will show a map. And you can try out different clubs. You might not like just one club. I went to a club a few months ago that met in the back of a Rayleigh's supermarket. If you know like a Rayleigh's or a Safeway is, sometimes a grocery store will have a meeting room in the back. So it's not like we're meeting right there in the middle of everything. We meet in a private area with a table and chairs and a projector, and people display PowerPoint slides. People go through that rigmarole, that process that I mentioned to you earlier, where we go around, do the table topics. People have specific assignments that they're presenting to advance in their levels. There's so many cool things that are going on with Toastmasters. There are area contests where people have their best speech and they all compete against each other. And if they win, then they advance to an even bigger level, and they advance to an even bigger level. And it goes as high and as famous as Chicago and I think Paris and all this crazy stuff. And it's a nice hobby to have. It's a better hobby than some of those other hobbies out there. And I think that it will help you get out of your shell. I know that it's helped me get out of my shell somewhat. And it's also something that will directly benefit your entrepreneurial online internet marketing business. But it also scratches the itch of having something non-computer, non-internet marketing to talk about. I've barely even mentioned anything podcasting or internet marketing at Toastmasters or in my Toastmasters presentations, because sometimes you're just looking to present about something different to get the gears in your brain turning and working in a different way. Sometimes, like I said, you're playing around with the attention getters or the jokes, or you're experimenting with the length of your speech or the beginning or the end, and you're just improving something that is there. So Toastmasters is a great way, at the very least, to reduce your ums and ahs. They might not completely go away, but it's a great way to get that figured out. It doesn't always mean that you have to meet someplace and eat, but I guess you could. And it's a great way to make some friends, to make some strange friends that you wouldn't normally come across, that aren't just people like your coworkers or your kids' friends that they're going to school with or something like that. You can become friends with some random, diverse groups of people. I'm going to stay in it. I'm headed off to that Toastmasters meeting later tonight. I recommend, again, you go to toastmasters.org, click on Find a Club, type in your zip code, find a couple of clubs that you can possibly attend. I just did that for myself, and looks like there's one on Wednesday, the 2nd and 4th of the month, one that meets every Tuesday morning, one that meets every Thursday at noontime at the Chamber of Commerce building. In my tiny little town of 70,000 people in Turlock, there are 4, and then it looks like there are about 17 total in the greater area. And one thing I always forget to do is, when I'm traveling to attend an event or something, to look at those Toastmasters meetings in my area and maybe leave the conference in the evening and go check out something nearby. Because why not? Because that is an interesting way to live a more diverse life and improve your skills, which will pay off in your internet marketing business in a ton of different ways. And if you are at this point in the podcast and you are looking to become a better speaker in one way or another, why not put those speaking skills to use by going to webinarcrusher.com if you're looking to use webinars to run a class or pitch a product, or even podcastcrusher.com, where you can create your own podcast just like this one, get it listed on iTunes, get it listed on Google Play and Stitcher, talk about what you're doing every day, talk about your products and your latest adventures, interview other people in your industry. Podcastcrusher.com is a really great place to get that dialed in. So that way you can be heard and you don't have to struggle on YouTube with the video stuff. You don't have to struggle with writing a blog post. You just speak out what it is that you want to say. Podcastcrusher.com. And, if video does sound good to you, then videosalestactics.com is the place where we show you how to live stream on Facebook. Just wanted to throw that in. So 3 areas, 4 URLs, I guess I should say, 4 resources: webinarcrusher.com, podcastcrusher.com, videosalestactics.com, and give Toastmasters a try if you've heard of it, or even if you haven't heard of it. We've had Chuck Hooper on the program, who I mentioned. We've had Christian Michelson on the program, who started with Toastmasters and has become a world-renowned, international, hugely high-ticket speaker. So check out the episode with that. Just search on Google Robert Plank, Christian Michelson. You'll find it. But most importantly, Toastmasters.org. Find a club, type in your zip code, and then find a Toastmasters club near you. So Toastmasters.org. See you there, and bye now. Please follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/RobertPlank. That's twitter.com/RobertPlank. And while you're adding me, also like Marketer of the Day on Facebook by going to facebook.com/RobertPlankShow.